How are you feeling this morning as a lifelong Jags fan?
I honestly thought that Ross was going to make a tea joke at me whenever that first came because they're going to London. It's like, here we go. I got to buckle up. I'm not I'm not feeling great, fellas. I got to be honest with you. Being a Jags fan is not been good for a long time. I mean, since Jack Del Rio was looking handsome in his leather jacket standing on the side, we've had some rough goes of it. We thought we were coming back in 2017 when you had a good defense, a young offense, and we thought that we were right on the right track. And we really were a play away from the Super Bowl. If Miles Jack doesn't get called down in the AFC Championship, I believe the Jags go up 18 and they win that game in New England and go to the Super Bowl. Now it feels like that was decades ago. That might as well have been Mark Brunell at quarterback instead of Blake Bortles.
All right, so Uncle Chaps, good to talk with you, man. Thank you, by the way, so much for your service. Dave and
Thank you.
I know, both feel that way. Much appreciated. You know, it's funny, Uncle Chaps, when it first came out that the Jags were going to play a game in London each year, I was working for another outlet, and we had a lot of fans call from Jacksonville, and I was amazed how many of them were totally fine with it and said, "This is great. That we're going to get more revenue from this. We're going to get fans over there, more revenue for us back here, and also my season tickets are cheaper now. My season tickets are 1/8 cheaper. I only have to pay for 9 games with the preseason rather than 10. There was not a lot of animosity. I have to think now that it's 2 that can't quite be what Jags fans are going to have as a reaction now. What have you heard from other Jags fans about this latest announcement?
Yeah, I mean, just from my Twitter timeline and talking to people that are in Jacksonville, it is completely different. When they announced the initial deal, you kind of look at it, the stadium in Jacksonville needed upgrades. They needed to have the big scoreboards put in. They put in the pool. They did a lot of things in Jacksonville that kind of made them going and playing one game almost seem a little bit worth it. Like you knew you were losing one game, but there's financial viability and you have all the ownership, the president talking about that. Now it just feels so different. You look at all the different tea leaves. You look that Shad Khan owns part of Wembley Stadium. He owns an English Premier League soccer team over there in Fulham. It feels so different that the team just might leave. And we've seen it now with San Diego not having a team, St. Louis not having a team. You really do look, it does feel like dad has one foot out the door and he's about to leave.
Yeah, let's. I want to talk more about that analogy, chaps. I love me some good analogies, and check him out, by the way, at Uncle Chaps on Twitter, Chaps and Kate on the Kate at Barstool. Great show you guys have. What's that feeling like when mom and dad tell you they're going to work on things? And again, like you've been a lifelong Jags fan, so how painful does it feel? Do you feel like it is realistic that they are going to relocate the franchise, and how painful would that be?
It'd be extremely painful. One, because I'd immediately have to go get a tattoo to cover up my Jags tattoo that I have on my arm. I would have to go get a big red X through it. I would be done with them immediately. But in 1993, I was in the 3rd grade in Jacksonville, Florida. And whenever we watched the announcement happen on Channel 4 there in Jacksonville, we were all watching it, gathered around the TV. We knew that it might be coming down. The news might be coming down. I immediately went out with my family and almost all of my wardrobe had a Jaguar on it. And it was the logo originally that kind of looked like the Jaguar car logo. And then they had to change it. All my clothes were that way. I got made fun of at school. A lot of people weren't into it at first. But the Jags were my real sports love. I mean, I grew up a Braves fan because they were on TBS. I grew up an Orlando Magic fan. But my city only had one team. Jacksonville was on the map really in the United States because of the Jaguars. I've lived away. I was in the Marine Corps for almost 10 years. I live in San Antonio now. My only real tie to my hometown is that team that I watch 16 times a year on Sundays. That's it. If that leaves, to me, it really feels like a deep part of my childhood, my young adolescence is gone with it. And there will be no replacing it. The Jags, to me, are irreplaceable for the community of Jacksonville.
So Uncle Chaps, I'm gonna rat him out now. And Dave Briggs has been since we started doing this show very skeptical that Jacksonville is even deserving of an NFL team because
They're
Unbelievable.
of
not.
the size of the market and all those things.
They're
So
not.
I want you, Uncle Chaps, explain to us, answer that question. Is Jacksonville as a city worthy of having an NFL franchise?
Yes, they
No.
are, Dave. What's wrong with you? They've had it for almost 20 years. There is no such thing as a bad fan base in the NFL. There really isn't. Even if you look at a team like the Denver Broncos, 300 straight sellouts. Now, the last 2 or 3 years, they've been a worse team. They've been a team that didn't expect to go to the playoffs. They are struggling with attendance. The Buffalo Bills struggled with attendance whenever they were bad. Now you can't hardly buy a ticket because they are in second place in the AFC East. So if you win, your stadium will be filled in the NFL. They have been 38-90 since Shad took over as the owner. No one, no matter what, if you're a Steeler, if you're a Giants fan, no matter what, if you have that record, your stadium won't be filled either. It has nothing to do with Jacksonville.
Dude, come on, Uncle Chaps. Look, I'm disappointed at the moment in the Bay Area fan base who didn't post in the top 10 of television ratings in their own fucking Super Bowl. That's pathetic. You got to give me a better explanation why Jacksonville deserves a professional sports franchise. Name for me a worse city, a worse fan base in the NFL than Jacksonville. And by the way, 27th in attendance, 8.7% drop. Name for me one worse fan base / city in the NFL.
The Dolphins, by far. I think the Dolphins are terrible. Tampa's bad. Cincy was blacked out for essentially forever. And all those teams are because they're bad. If they win, whenever you go back to the early 90s and the early 2000s, whenever they were consistently going to the playoffs, that wasn't the case. Even as soon as 2010, they weren't in there. There was 97% filled. They have one of the bigger stadiums in the NFL and the smallest market. I just don't think that any of the teams that, to be honest, Jacksonville deserving, no. But they have the team now. Like, if Jacksonville as a city on its own merit, do they deserve having an NFL franchise? Probably not. They're not one of the top 32 teams market-wise and things like that in the country, but they have it. Green Bay, if you were handing out teams right now, Green Bay surely wouldn't have a team, right?
Right, but they have the best fan base in the country.
Well, because that's what they have. Like that, you can make the same exact argument for Jacksonville that you could build something like that. But Green Bay has been perpetual winners throughout, so they are tied to that city. We haven't even had time with 25 years of being a team to build a second generation or a third generation of fans. Everybody that's there, my generations are the first ones that we grew up as Jags fans to have the opportunity to bring our kids to. That is the first time that this has happened for us.
You represent the Jags franchise, Uncle Chaps. What percentage of Jags fans now believe that Shad Khan wants this team to eventually be the London Jaguars or Shaguars?
I would say probably 50 at this point. And look, I've been on the record. I've talked about it a lot. I love Shad's story. Of all the owners that are in the NFL, I think that he represents the American dream. He moved to America. He was 17 years old. He's from Pakistan, goes to the University of Illinois at Champaign, gets an engineering degree, builds a bumper that he sells to his company. He eventually buys that company, and now he's worth $7.4 billion. He is the embodiment of what the American dream looks like, an immigrant that comes here and does amazing and is a leader in business and social life and all those things. That being said, he's the owner of the team that I root for. This seems like a money grab, and the viability thing drives me insane. When he bought the team 8 years ago, he bought it for $790 million. In 2017, when Forbes did an estimation of what it's worth now, it's $1.95 billion. The difference in money is it's not about viability. If you have an NFL team, it's impossible to lose money. You gain on your investment every single year. Going to London is just a cash grab. It's as simple as that. And just be honest with the fans. This is about cash. It's not about building a long-term thing in Jacksonville. It's just not.
Talking Uncle Chaps from Barstool. At least you have Minshew Mania, right, man? Do you like that? Do you feel like it is a beautiful thing, or is it bullshit?
I love it. I love Minshew Mania. He came around the last 2 games. When he first started playing, there was a lot of broken plays that he did really well. That, to me, that's not sustainable. You're not going to be Russell Wilson and be able to do that forever. Whenever he first came in, he really struggled in the confines of the offense. Like, he couldn't get anything out on time. He couldn't find the receiver that was open. He didn't know how to go to his second and third read fast enough. Now, towards the end of the season, he was getting a little bit better with that. So I do have hopes that he could be the guy going forward, because he's perfect. If you talk about what Duval is and what Jacksonville needs, it's that guy. It's the guy in denim cutoff shorts with a bandana wrapped around his head that wants to take his first NFL vacation in an RV, not at the Ritz-Carlton. I love Minshew.
Have you had a beer with him, and do you want to see Nick Foles elsewhere?
I do want to see Nick Foles anywhere but Jacksonville. I hate Nick Foles with a passion. Hate him, because you can't tell me that this is about the journey and this is about going home to your wife and kids and getting better every day. Shut up, dude. It's about winning. You got blown out. That first half, when he came back after breaking his clavicle, was the worst half. You could argue that it's the worst half any quarterback has ever had. He had, I believe it was 5 possessions in a row. 4 of them were turnovers, and 1 was for an interception. It was horrific. He's terrible. Get him out of my city. If Nick Foles starts, just move the team to London. I won't even care. Just move him to London. I don't want him on my team whenever the year starts. I haven't had a beer with Minshew yet, but I would love to, and I would love to have many of them.
All right, we got to get that done. I have not heard that kind of anti-Nick Foles sentiment. Didn't think that existed. I can't argue with you there. It's funny, though. You put up a better case for that than you did for Jacksonville deserving an NFL football team. So
that's one that I really believe. I mean, that's one that I really, truly believe. I don't want to be the Jags guy and be like, I don't know if Jacksonville really deserves it, but we have it. We deserve to keep it. Don't come robbing me like you're the NFL version of Robin Hood. It's about deserve. We have the money in our pockets right now. Let us keep it.